Alright, hi guys. I am with Jess and Madison to help me talk about my books that I read in March. Yeah, okay. My goal this month was to read 5 books because I felt like I read too many last month. But then I read 10. So I forgot 2 of the physical copies that I have. So these are the ones that I do have. And yeah. Okay, so the first book that I read this month that I forgot to bring was The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, and I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. I thought it was great. It was really thick, so it kind of took me a minute to read through. And but I thought it was really cute. It's kind of one of those like life character studies, but with like a bit more plot, which I thought was nice and kept me engaged. And I thought, even though it was long, it really did a good job of keeping the story entertaining. The next book I read was I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. This book was super short, really easy to get through, really easy to understand, and so much better than the movie. I gave it 4 stars, and...
You gave it 4 stars?
Yeah, I did.
I think I gave it 3 stars.
Well, I was saying, Madison read it too. So.
I did. I thought it was a lot better than the movie, but I thought, once we watched the movie together, I was, watching a lot of videos about what happened in the movie, which helped me understand the book a lot more. So I think if I hadn't had that kind of background of the novel, I wouldn't have gotten it. But I think it did a lot better job of, explaining some of the twists and, the more hazy elements of the book. And it just, added a lot more character.
Yeah. I think why I gave it 4 stars is because it was just, so exponentially better than the movie.
Yeah,
I wasn't expecting
that wasn't hard
much
to do, though.
No, it really wasn't hard to do. The movie sucked. And I think it just surprised me since the movie sucked how much the book sucked less. Yeah, I probably would give it 3 stars.
You liked the movie?
But I think that's because I liked the movie more before I had read the book. Once I read the book, I realized how bad the movie was.
No, same. I wasn't that was the worst movie I've ever seen, but I was oh, okay, that was cool. What the fuck just happened?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I read the book, and it was so short, too, that it's, really, a one-day kind of read. That I was, one and done in it, and I was that's such a non-committal read. You might as well just read the book instead of the movie, because it's not like when people tell you to read the book, and the book's 800 pages, and you're fuck no, I'm going to spend 2 hours watching the movie. This is very doable.
Yeah, and, it being 200 pages, I mean, some of the pages are, half a page or blank pages, and it's not, difficult writing to understand, so it's really a quick read. You can hold it here for you. The next book I read was In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado, and I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was really good. It details Carmen, it's a memoir about her experience with domestic abuse. It's definitely heavy, and there are definitely some, difficult sections of the book, but I think the way it was written was really cool because the dream house is kind of this extended metaphor throughout the book. And I think she did a really good job of explaining her story. And it also is a really easy read because there are pages that are a paragraph. So it was super quick, really good, but definitely not a book I think for everyone just because it's kind of heavy. And I don't know if I said I gave it 5 stars. The next book I read, was Flowers in the Attic, which I forgot to bring. I loved it. I thought it was great. I gave it 4 stars because it was one of those books. Oh, it's by V.C. Andrews. A prolific writer. Yeah. It was one of those books that every time you think it couldn't get crazier, it does. And I really liked that because it really kept you entertained. It's definitely kind of wild. It's about these 4 kids who go and live in their grandparents' attic. I know you've read it.
No, I've never read the books, but the movies are my favorite. They're trashy Lifetime movies, and I've always wanted to read the books. So I'm excited to borrow it.
Yeah, it was fun. It definitely kept you entertained. Okay. The next book I read was Tender as the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica. I'm pronouncing that wrong. Really good. Also really short, really quick read. It's about a dystopian future where instead of animals, they eat humans. So they raise humans as cattle. Madison also read this book. I gave it 3 stars because it reminded me a lot of The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, just in like their description of like their meatpacking industry. Only I thought The Jungle just like did it better. But I really liked the idea of the story, and it was definitely like fun and weird and kind of creepy.
See, I loved it. I thought it was an absolute page turner, and I have never read The Jungle or any kind of book about cannibalism, so this was a story that was completely new to me. And the way they wrote about it, like, genuinely made me want to throw up. Like, it was, like, making my stomach turn, and it was, like, super heartbreaking, and I gave it 4 stars, and I would have given it 5 if it weren't for the chapters about, like, the animal abuse to the puppies, because I was like, that just feels, like, gratuitous. Because, like, we understand that the world is, like, super violent and super, like, distorted in how we view life, and I just felt like those chapters could have been left out, and I still would have gotten that message. And that just felt like a couple pages of cruelty that I just didn't need to read, and it didn't really add to the story.
Yeah, and I think for me, something I just didn't really like about it was, like, I'm fine with a short book, as there's another short one in here that I loved, that Jess gave me. And I think that my issue with this one was I didn't feel like there was enough of a rapport built between me and the main character for me to like really care what happened to him. I more cared about like the dystopian world they created. Like I thought that was like super interesting and like how they did like sure. Right. Like and the writing was good, but like I didn't care about what happened to him and like in his life. Like his son died and like that's kind of like a theme throughout and like I didn't care. I was just like, okay.
No. For this book definitely I didn't like have any emotion towards the characters, and I can't tell you their names now, but like I have been looking for a page turner, and this one was a page turner until the literal last second. Like they don't have you have a climax and then 20 pages after. The climax is like the last sentence. It's exciting till the end.
Yeah, that's really true.
That's why I was like really excited about this book.
The next book I read, I actually audiobooked it, but Madison read it, the hardcover, so is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was fine. I very much understand why people liked it, and we talked a lot about it as you were reading it also. It's definitely one of those books that's like, it's very feel-good. I just feel like it was kind of like wrapped up too neatly in the end, where I was like,
Because it was.
And it was, and it didn't, there's no surprises, there's no shockers. It's a great book. It's like, I understand why so many people like it and why there's so many age ranges of people that like it. But to me, it was just like, there was nothing about it that was like exciting or there was no twist.
No, it was definitely one of those books where it was exciting for a page and then she was done. And then it was like 20 more pages and then it was exciting for like a paragraph and then that was done. And it was just very like...
It was exactly what you'd expect.
Especially in the beginning of the book, I found it really hard to like it. I gave it 4 stars because I found it, like, it's not great. It's good, but it's very unoffensive. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. There's just nothing that, like, makes me want to pick it up again. But I found it really hard to like in the beginning because it's about, like, this author writing about what depression feels like. And he just was putting all of these lines in that trying so hard to be profound and just trying so hard to write, like, the next great American novel that you can like feel how hard he was trying, and it made it like it made it where I was like, oh, that's like he would just say really weird things and I'd be like, that sounds cool, I have no idea what that means.
Yeah,
like that doesn't add anything.
Yeah, it made me feel like if I were 15 years old, like maybe like starting to struggle with depression, why I would like it, and if I were like 40 not having been through depression, I would also like it. And I was just like, I'm not in either of those places. So it just kind of wasn't like it for me. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
The next book I read was We've Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. And I think I gave it 4 stars. Yeah, I gave it 4 stars. This book was really good. Also really short. And this was something that like, I remember when Jess gave it to me, I told her I didn't love Tender as the Flesh because it was so short. I didn't get to like know the characters. And we were like, oh, well, this was short too. But Shirley Jackson, I think, is a much better short novelist where like I feel like I got to know the characters. Like she did that. There is that connection with them, I felt.
You're very much inside of the main character's head the entire time. There's not... People either like love the book or they absolutely hate the book because there's not much of a plot to it. It's really just thoughts and like, but the way they made like an 18-year-old seem 11, like
Mhm.
was really impressive to me, and like it was just extremely well written, and it was still enjoyable even though there wasn't a crazy plot, and like the way it ended wasn't really much different than the way it started. Like
Yeah.
but
Yeah, we
No.
all read it. Jess and I liked it a lot more than Madison did.
I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I really wanted to like it because it's Shirley Jackson, and I love The Lottery, and I love her other stories, and I just love her work. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna love this. I'm not mad at a short book, like in and out, but I need something that's not necessarily plot driven, but like I need something that packs a punch. And my issue with this book wasn't the writing was beautiful. The story was really cool, but it was just that they would say something like a bombshell and only stay on it for one sentence and then move right along, like, and not discuss it ever. And I was like, no, that's the exciting part. Like, that's the parts for me that make the book worth reading. Let's stay on that a little longer. Like, because it reeled me in with that, and then it was never mentioned.
I think there's a reason why she did that, though. Because I think a lot of it is, like, the whole, like, just, like, the way the family is and the way the society is. Everything is very, like, kind of washed over. And you don't, something is, like, wrong the whole time.
Yeah.
With everyone.
It definitely
and, like,
does a good job of making it, like, an eerie feeling.
And, like,
Yeah.
nobody, like,
Everyone's a little cuckoo.
you can't really tell what's wrong. And so I think that's why when they drop a bombshell, they don't really go more into depth, because I don't think you're really supposed to know what's happening.
Yeah, and
No.
I liked that
Yeah.
because, like, for me, right, like, so the story is, like, these two sisters, and their whole family, besides them and their uncle, were murdered. And so it's, like, right, so that's kind of, like, you think that that's the plot, and then it's, like, not really the plot. Like, it's just something that happened that's not super, super talked about, and then, like, when you do find out more about it, it's just kind of, like,
thrown in there.
like, thrown in there, and then they're just like, yep, boop, 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 like, move
No,
on.
and
And so, like, that to me, I was like, oh, that's kind of fun that, like, there is this plot that you think's going to be central, and it's not. I understand when you're looking for more of, like,
No, yeah.
a plot.
And I
like, why you
appreciated
want
the way
that.
she wrote it. Like, I wouldn't change a thing about it, but because I understand why she did it, because it was just touched on, and it was only like they would drop crazy plot twists in one sentence, and it was never mentioned again. And it was just sort of, for me, I didn't feel like I was getting the payoff as a reader, like, staying with this story, like, reading this book.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm putting this effort in to be in their world, and I'm just not getting any payoff from it because they're not just delivering me any kind of drama.
Yeah, and I think also, like, even when you were reading it, we talked about, it's, like, it's so short that, like, you know, you were,
It's
like,
worth it.
you were, like, 100 pages at less than that, 'cause it's 150. Right, and you're
I was,
like,
like, 60
okay,
pages
right, you're
in.
like 60 pages in, you're basically like, all right, I'm halfway, like, even if I'm not, like, totally feeling it, might as well finish it, because, right,
Yeah.
it's, like, a day. You can read this in a few hours, and, like,
It's
yeah.
done.
All right, that's yours if you wanted it. The next book I read was Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I audiobooked that, and I have been listening to it for, like, months, just kind of as, like, my background book, but I finally finished it. I gave it, I want to say 4 stars. 4 stars. I really liked it. It was good. It's exactly what you'd think it would be. I mean, you know, I've seen the movie a million times, so I think that really helped me at the beginning, like, know who the characters were. But I also found it to be a lot easier to understand than I thought it would. Like, I thought the language would be really difficult just because of, like, what it is, and it wasn't. I mean, it definitely wasn't, like, the most exciting plot all the way through, but, like, there's a reason I think it's so, like, it's a classic and it's so popular. I liked it. The next book I read was Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, which I also audiobooked, which I really liked because the speaker was British and had a very nice voice, and it made it very fun to read. I liked it so much more than Circe. I read Circe first, and I gave it, like, 3 stars, and that was kind of generous because I didn't really love it.
I couldn't even finish Circe.
She couldn't finish it. She hasn't read it. And I think also, like, you were going to read it, and then we were like, it sucks.
No,
Yeah,
I was,
don't
like,
read it.
excited to read it, and then both of you were like, you can, we have the copies, but, like, I don't know why you would. And I was like, okay. Because I also have wanted to read Song of Achilles, so I was like, I don't necessarily have to choose, but I might as well read the one
No,
that's, like...
Circe was so slow.
better.
I was in the middle of, like, a climax, and I was like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Like,
No, Song of Achilles I gave 4 stars. And I'm really glad that I read Circe first, because I had heard that, like, Song of Achilles was the better one. And if I had read Song of Achilles first and was like, it's only going to get worse, I wouldn't have read Circe. So I'm glad I read it first. And, like, because then I was more excited about Song of Achilles, because I was like, it's supposed to be better. And it was. And it was, like, kind of cute. There's, like, a little romance going on, which was nice and fun. It was really cute. And I thought it was fun. It wasn't, like, right, like, the next great American novel, but it was a lot of fun and I liked it. And yeah. And then the final book I read in March was Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. And I hated it.
I hate it too.
I absolutely hated it.
I'm not going to read it.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
It is so bad. I was sitting with her reading it. I mean, you sometimes too, but at the end I was with her. And I was like, I don't want to do it. I would read a page and be like,
20 pages left, and I was like, you'll be done in 30 minutes.
I know. I'm like, I just got to power through. Because she's like, well, you don't have to finish. I'm like, I'm so close to done. I just have to.
Yeah.
I hated it.
I read it in the 8th grade for, like, sometime in that age range for school. And I completely understand how an English teacher, like a middle school English teacher, would look at this book and be like, yes, like, these themes, like, we're gonna, like, assign this book for summer reading. As someone who just reads to enjoy themselves, or even reads for literature, that's not it. That doesn't hit either mark.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
see, I have someone who this is literally their favorite book in the world, just
they
for
need
like
to
enjoyment
grow up.
purposes.
They need to grow up
Yeah.
and also learn what taste is. That's like saying, oh, I was about to say my favorite food's butter noodles, but it is so. But no, that like have some taste, have any sort of intellectual ability. This book sucks. I completely understand why a middle school English teacher would be like, this would be so good for class because it talks about like, you know, if like applying yourself to something and it's easy to read. Like lots of people could get something from it, and I totally could see like you building a class around it, like a class period around it. I hated it. I thought it was really bad. And the writing was bad, and I felt like Daniel Keyes was, like, trying to do something there, and, like, didn't. Like, he was like, yeah, I'm doing something. And I was like, no, you're not. Kind of gives me, like, Catcher in the Rye vibes. Like, if this is your favorite thing, if you identify with the main character, grow up.
Yeah.
Miranda Cosgrove's favorite book is The Catcher.
Grow up, Miranda Cosgrove. You had 2 good songs, About Me Now and Kiss.
No, it's like,
It's not Sparks Fly, but it starts like that.
Kissing You.
Kissing You.
Yeah.
Get a new favorite book. Read anything else. The reason I gave it 2 stars is because it's not The Intuitionist, which is my least favorite book of all time. I'm so sorry, Colson Whitehead. You came and spoke at my school. You're a great person. I hate your book. That one. So I gave it 2 stars because it wasn't that. I would have given it like a 1.5, but I rounded up because I'm generous. But yeah, it sucked. I get why people would like it when you're 13.
I didn't like it when I was 13.
And I also, but if you did like when you were
It's not.
13, read literally anything else.
Once again, it's just one of those books that doesn't pack a punch the entire time. They tell you the most exciting parts about the book on the back of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not finding out anything exciting. And then it happens so early that you're just with it. And he just...
Yeah.
So it's like he becomes incredibly, like, the most intelligent man in the world and does absolutely nothing with it. And it's just, like, no emotional payoff, no excitement, no climaxes. Like, it's not, like, this great literary work where, like, it sucks and it's hard, but, like, you're reading it because it's so beautiful. Like, it's not that. It's just some white guy sat down and typed out this book and gave it to the world, and we were like, okay, thanks.
Yeah. No,
Like,
that's
it's very,
exactly
like,
right. Like
nothing. It doesn't do anything.
everything that like happens in the book happens in like the first 50 pages, and then there's like a whole bunch of nothing, and then it's like okay, and it's over.
Yeah, it sucks.
And there's nothing exciting ever.
And Charlie's not like a
not like a
likable
likable
character.
character.
He's not like a protagonist you're rooting for. Like when he's like,
There's like a whole thing
Dumb
about
or
how he's
smart,
like an
like-
arrogant douchebag,
no, yeah,
and I was like, yeah, correct.
no, it's
So why am I
Yeah.
reading this?
it's not like you're like, oh, it sucks, but like I need to find out what happens to Charlie. You're kind of like, fuck Charlie. Like I don't care what this kid's doing. Like
It was awful.
just yeah.
And those are all the books I read in March. I know you guys read like other books. So if there's anything you wanted to recommend, you're welcome to, but you don't have to.
I'm currently reading Baby Teeth. I'm not
I'm excited
done,
about that.
but it's really good. Oh, it's really sucking me in.
The Perfect Guest was really, really good.
I'm excited about
It
that
was
one too.
really, really good. It kept me very entertained the entire book, like up until the last sentence.
I love
And
that.
Good
It's like-
Omens. Good Omens is like a comedy book. There's a TV show about it. It's banging.
I'm
Book's hilarious.
reading
By Neil
another.
Gaiman.
I'm reading another book by Neil Gaiman. I'm reading
He's
Neverwhere.
everywhere, guys.
Oh,
It's actually not my favorite.
okay.
I
It's
do
so
want to.
pretty.
I do want to read
See-
American Gods by him because I've heard that's like his like masterpiece. But this one is
No.
not hitting.
Good Omens is hilarious. The show is like word for word quotes for the book. It's perfect. I love it. But Neil Gaiman wrote a review for Midnight Library, and I trust when Neil Gaiman writes a review, the book's worth reading, and I was really disappointed.
I feel a little betrayed.
Because I was like, if Neil Gaiman's writing about this,
Like, it
maybe
has
I
to
should
be
be
good.
reading it. Like,
Yeah.
if he's like, yeah, this book did something, I should sit down and be like, what the fuck? But, like, I did it, and I was like, okay, that's done. It's disappointed, Neil.
Yeah, I also feel like for the Midnight Library, Nora, the main character, like, wasn't that likable.
Because she wasn't.
She seemed very whiny.
She was like, my perfect life sucks. And I was like, and
She's
just
like,
getting,
I'm slightly
she
disappointed.
was getting disappointed over the stupidest things. Like, it was just,
She's like, my favorite drink's a macchiato in this life. Ugh.
and she's like, guess I won't stay here. This just sucked. But,
Yeah.
yeah, Good Omens. Everyone should read Good Omens.
Neverwhere's
Let's not read that one. It's so pretty.
You could if you want. Get the illustrated version.
Yeah.
You're like,
Picture
your book
books
is
in
We
this
cool.
like
house.
pictures.
I'll give it to you. Your book is super cool.
All right, well,
All right.
that's all I had to say. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me, guys.
You're welcome.
And I will see you next month. Peace out. Beep, bop, boop.